Hello, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Story here on Keystroke Medium. I'm Josh Hayes here with Scott Moon, and today we are talking to Shellie Horst, one of the 14 authors who contributed to the Exploration Through the Wormhole anthology by Woodbridge Press. The Exploration series is a collection of themed short stories set in a shared universe where the authors were given a set of rules and technology and then set loose upon the world to create or destroy how they saw fit. Shellie Horst is a regular contributor to ssfworld.com, and she contributed When the Skies Open, and today we're going to talk to her about what inspired the story and what it was like to write in a shared universe. Shellie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you, Shellie.
Pleased to meet you both.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your history in writing?
My history in writing goes back to fan fiction in Transformers a long time ago.
Oh, very cool.
A long time ago. But more recently, I did a creative writing degree while my children were young. It seemed like a good time to, work around things and such things. Science fiction and fantasy doesn't generally go down too well in the universities, the genre styles, but I was very lucky to work with Jim Hawkins, who writes for Interzone, on my final year, so I had a lot of encouragement there. But I didn't really start sending my stories out until this year, and I was really lucky to know and discover Woodbridge.
Can you talk to us a little bit about When the Skies Open?
When the Skies Open, when I saw the open call for it, I wanted to write something from possibly a different angle, because I knew, I'd read some of the military space opera type genre that's out there, and I enjoy a lot of it. I wanted to write something from the viewpoint of what happened once that wormhole had closed and they'd got stuck there, as it were. So I was exploring different ideas and how people would go deal with that situation. It kind of touches on a colony, about the colony that's been marooned, and how they would survive, because like any living thing, when you cut off from everything else, your prime motivation is about staying alive, survival. Right. So I was exploring how they would survive based with the few bits of technology that was left behind and everything else that was on the planet. So the planet we could play with as much as we wanted. So I had a lot of fun developing the world, the flat feeders and things like that. But I think I might have spent too much time world developing and not enough time actually writing in the first place. But we live and learn.
That's one of the best things about being in the speculative fiction or science fiction is get to do that fun world building. So you're talking about people that are trapped kind of on the other end of the wormhole in a survival maroon story. That's a great genre. It has lots of kind of subgenre almost.
The other thing that was really good was this, without me knowing at the time, the story that I wrote very nicely balanced against Ralph's story. Ralph Kern's story, the first, and working with Ralph after the story was accepted, and finding something that made these two completely independent stories kind of gel together. That was another good thing. So like collaborating between us, and coming up with ideas that although they weren't written at all. I didn't even know what Ralph was writing, and he had no clue. But it was really interesting to see what I was writing. He had no clue what I was writing. It was really interesting to see how the two could be woven together, and his knowledge, his obvious knowledge of space travel and things like that, and whereas mine is more. I tend to go from the person's point of view and not so much the technology as it was. And then I'll research the technology to make sure it fits.
So kind of a character-driven story oftentimes? Or
yeah, I'd say so, usually. Yeah. Usually I'll read a lot of science magazines and I'll read the articles and I'll think, where will that lead? Mm-hmm. But the characters will grow first, and then I'll have to go and explore the science, or find somebody or something where I can actually relate to it, so it makes more sense.
You mentioned that you did a lot of world building in the story. When you start out with this idea, how did the process of going from the idea to complete short story? Can you walk us kind of through like how you went through that? Did you plot out different character arcs? Or you talk about a character-driven story. How did the writing go for you?
I tend to live with the idea. I'll write the notes down as they come, and I don't generally write in this room that I'm in. When I'm writing first drafts, I have 5 desks in this house. And
that's fantastic.
overload.
You're my hero.
I have this one behind me is sort of like the editing, the least amount of connection to the story as possible area. I tend to do a lot of that. I can come and go from it because I'm not trying to interact with the development of it. Okay. I have a little cozy snug area, which has a huge self-made chalkboard. Everything I have has come from like free giveaways and things like that. I've not bought it all. It's all kind of free cycle and stuff like that. But I have this huge board that I can pin my notes to. So as the ideas go down, they go on down note cards and things like that. And I'll write them down, and then I'll work out the arc from what the ideas are. I'm very visual that way, and then I can, if something doesn't fit, I can move it around. Okay. I've moved into using Scrivener now as well, which is really helpful. But I thought that I'd go completely away from that, but I don't. I still like to faff, and when I'm doing a novel, I've got a couple of novels now. The whole living room floor is play zone, and there's paper everywhere, and the kids aren't allowed in, and it's just chaotic. But I think in many ways it helps me find my way through what's not going to work, what will work. With this particular short story, I knew from the point of reading the submission call, what I really wanted to focus on was what happens if they got stuck there. Was immediately what came to me. So I thought, well, is that the ending or is that the start? It proved to be the start and the end in many ways. So, yeah.
That would be a question if I was actually literally in real life traveling, something like that. That would be a big concern for me, is if I got marooned on the other end. So a good story start. I wanted to ask you a little bit. You're talking about your story writing process. Now you do some copywriting, correct?
I do.
So does that? A lot of the people we've talked to about short stories are going from novel to short stories, and it's kind of I got to be real tight and concise. Well, in copywriting, you probably don't waste a lot of words. So does that make it easier to write short fiction?
No, yes, it's all words. Writing a novel, writing a short story, and copywriting, they're all different audiences. Right. Just like what you do with your audience. Although they're the same audience, the people you want to interact with them, and you want them to either a call to action or turn the page. Okay. It's a different audience. So you do tend to learn how to play with your words more doing copywriting. I will say that. In many ways, I get to do a lot of fun projects as well. I mean, I've done some fantastic stuff for local groups and things like that, as well as I work with my husband. So we if I have a lot of work on, he'll take all the work on, so I can just totally focus on finishing on whatever project I've got.
So you have written one novel. Can we find that on Amazon, or is it published? Or no,
I don't like talking about things that haven't found homes yet, because this is superstition in its very best form. The minute I say something might happen, you can guarantee it doesn't. Oh, right. And you'll know yourself. You'll have lots of interesting bites or possible things that might develop, and you think, oh, I'm going to tell everybody about it. The minute you do, boom, it doesn't happen. I don't do it anymore. I've learned my lesson.
Stephen King talks to that point in his book on writing, or on writing a memoir of the craft. But he says that you shouldn't talk about the story until it's done. Because once you talk about the story, you've released that internal energy, and then now sometimes you don't feel the need to write it because you already told the story to whoever. So that's hard sometimes, because a lot of times I get a great idea and I want everybody to know about it right now.
For example, I'm working on another story for First Contact, the next in the series for this, and I'm keeping although I've shared some story ideas, the possible title, things like that, the actual story that I want to work on, I don't want people to go, that's a load of rubbish. What are you doing that for? I want to see what it's going to be like. I want to see, what characters are going to come from it. And once I get to a point where I've got the whole draft together, and I'm happy with it, and I can tell where it's going to go, I'm like, okay, right, now I know it's down on paper. Now I know it's mine. And I won't freak out if somebody else starts talking about something that might be sort of similar because it's set in space or whatever. So.
Yeah, that's weird. They're all in space. What is up?
How dare they? Yeah, and it's got spaceship too. I mean, come on.
Oh, you always have to have
all
a spaceship.
seem to be related.
So you've mentioned that you write novels and short stories. Is there a difference in how you approach the craft and how you write those different lengths of work?
Yeah, yes and no. I treat each one as each chapter as a short story. I didn't originally. It was just let's just write and ramble and oh my god, how much editing does that cost? But now I work because I write everything down on note cards and I pin it all up on a board and I make a mess in the house. I can then follow the right. This is what needs to happen in this chapter, and this is what needs to happen in this chapter. And because I then transfer all that across to Scrivener, I can really get into sort of like both the character development and the plot development and who said what where and what was used and what needs to come back. So from that point of view, I treat them both differently because when you're only writing a short story, there's only a real little bit that you need to deal with. So I don't tend to plot it out on the boards as much.
So readers that are interested in finding out information about you or your work, where can they go and find you at?
I have a website that I blog mostly that I update here and there. So that's millymollymo.com and also on Twitter as millymollymo. So that's fairly easy.
Okay. Excellent. This has been Explorations Through the Wormhole. For Scott Moon, I'm Josh Hayes, and we've been behind the story of When the Skies Open by Shellie Horst. The Through the Wormhole anthology will be available September 2016 through Woodbridge Press, and I encourage you, if you've enjoyed this interview, to watch the rest of the Through the Wormhole interviews that are on the YouTube channel and to pick up the anthology when it's available. Thank you, Shellie, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, and hope you have a good night.